Let me tell you of the days of high adventure.
Hey there nation, welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander CheapSkate, and we are back with another edition of the Golden Age. This is our series of Warhammer Fantasy Battle Reports, and this is Battle Report number 61. It is a 2,000 point battle that is fought between Lady Domina as well as myself. Lady Domina is playing House Daechir, the Golden Reavers of Skyros, a 2,000 point Dark Elves army, and I'm playing the Legion of the Hellmouth, my 2,000 point Ogre Kingdoms army. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to throw this down in a battle line scenario. If you want to see exactly what we're bringing for this one, you want to see our armies and what we're bringing for each of our armies, go ahead and take a look at the next couple slides coming up and just take a look at your own leisure. So that being said, let's get this battle report on a roll.
Crom, I've never prayed you before. I have no tongue for it. No one, not even you, will remember if we were good men or bad, why we fought or why we died. No. All that matters is that two stood against many. That's what's important. Balor pleases you, Crom. So grant me one request. Grant me revenge. If you do not listen, then the hell with you.
Alright, so let's go and talk about the scenario for this one. The scenario is battle line. It is the most typical standard version of Warhammer there is. We got standard deployment as well as standard victory conditions. It's our very favorite type of Warhammer scenario to play. So with the scenario rules over, let's go and talk about the battle plan real quick. So here's an overhead shot of the entirety of the battlefield. We're playing on a 4x6 table. My friend Lady Domina is deployed on the near side of the table, while my forces are deployed on the far side of the table. As you can see, we got some buildings as well as some forests and hills scattered around with some towers, and pretty much I have my work cut out for me on this one. My friend Lady Domina is bringing what's called the Monster Mash list, is what we affectionately call it within my gaming group. It is a 2,000 point Dark Elves army, but most of the points are put into monsters, which are located there on the right hand flank, and I got to really worry about those guys because Lady Domina is bringing a War Hydra as well as a Charybdis. She also has a Beastmaster on top of a Manticore, so I'm going to really worry about that right hand flank real fast. My plan, however, is to kind of hopefully I can engage them with my Mournfang Cavalry and hopefully, bog them down for a little bit, because Mournfang Cavalry are also pretty good as well. So hopefully I can occupy those monsters on the right hand side. At the same time, I'm going to concentrate majority of my infantry forces, which are my Iron Guts as well as my Bulls, and hopefully destroy Lady Domina's center. In the center she's got just normal infantry for Dark Elves, and Ogres just destroy light infantry like it's nobody's business. So that's pretty much my plan. At the same time, I'm going to use my Lead Belchers to hopefully take care of those Doomfire Warlocks, because they can make it really weak by giving Soul Blight off and lowering my toughness. So that's what I'm going to try to focus on with those guys, my Lead Belchers, and hopefully they'll be able to take care of that as well. At the same time, though, I'm going to have to move across the battlefield as quickly as I possibly can, because Lady Domina has 2 bolt throwers as well as a unit of 20 crossbowmen, so I have to worry about getting my units shot to pieces. Hopefully my Toughness 4 will help me out, but Toughness 4 is not something to bank on all the time, not necessarily. So I'm going to try to shoot down the gullet right there between those 2 forests right in the middle of the table, and hopefully engage her that way. And that's pretty much my plan for this one. Alright, let's talk about the deployment real quick. On the left-hand side, we have the Shacklemore Seers. It is a unit of 5 Doomfire Warlocks. They have level 2 Wizard, and also they have 2 spells, Soul Blight as well as Doombolt. And those guys are fast cad. They got poison attacks, 4 rewards. Just a perfect light cavalry choice for this army. And I have to really worry about those guys, because they can cause all kinds of problems for my army if I don't deal with them quick. Located in Lady Domina's center is our 2 units of infantry. On the left-hand side, that is the Morning Dawn. It is a unit of 20 Dark Shards, armed with repeater crossbows. They have light armor as well. I don't believe they have shields, but they do have the Banner of Eternal Flame, so I do have to, I don't have to really worry about that too much because I have nothing flammable, but I still have to deal with that on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, however, that is the Sea Stone Sorrows. That is a huge unit of 38 Dark Dread Spears, what they're called. They're Dark Elf Spearmen. They have light armor shields as well as spears. Sorry about that. That's some lightning in the background. There's a storm going on. So if you guys wonder what that big bang was, that's what's going on. It is also in that unit. She also has 2 of her characters as well. You have Captain Lodi Daechir on the left-hand side. He is a master who's a battle standard bearer. He's got heavy armor, shield. He's also carrying a great weapon. I believe he's got a sea dragon cloak as well. And he's wearing the crown of command, so that unit is stubborn. And finally, on the right-hand side there, that is Sister Sinner, the Oracle of Kos. She's a level 4 wizard of dark lore, is what she's carrying on this one. Her spells are Doombolt, Power of Darkness, Shroud Despair, as well as Arnzapal's Black Horror. She's also carrying a sacrificial dagger, and I believe the Talisman of Endurance, giving her a 5-up ward. And that unit of spearmen, they can be really deadly, especially if she gives Power of Darkness on those guys, because they become a strength 4 spearmen. So I don't have to worry about those guys when I fight against them. And that makes up Lady Dominus Center. On the right-hand flank of her army, she has her monsters. On the left-hand side, that is Virzil the Broken, who is a War Hydra with Fiery Breath. On the right-hand side, that is Rathric the Maw, that is a Charybdis. And in the back, that is her general, that is Beast Lord Karth of Rakaran Kar is his name. He's mounted on a Manticore named Kalibos. Kalibos also has the Blind Fury as well as Ironheart skin upgrades. The character, the Dark Elf Lord, he carries a Chill Blade. He's also got the Armor of Destiny as well as the other Trickster's Shards. He's really kitted out for killing people in challenges, so I really have to worry about that guy, because if he gets to my general, he can pretty much chop him up pretty good. And finally, in the far right hand corner of the battlefield, mounted on the top of that tower, those are 2 Dread Reapers. Those are called the Storms of Kos. They're 2 repeater bolt throwers, and that's where Lady Dominus artillery is located as well. Once again, you guys, I'm sorry about the thunder going on in the background if you guys are hearing that. So that's where her bolt thrower is located at, with good overwatching positions, having good clear fields of fire across the entirety of the battlefield. So with her deployment over, let's go and talk about the Ogre Kingdoms deployment real fast. So here on the left-hand side for the deployment for the Ogre Kingdoms, the Legion of the Hellmouth, that is my Powder Gangers. It is a unit of 4 Lead Belchers. That's just kitted out just normally. They have no upgrades whatsoever. They got light armor and well Lead Belcher guns. In the center are my 2 units of infantry. On the left, that is Stinkgum's Legion. Now, I have done a little bit of a change up for my army list to make it a little bit more competitive and to try out a couple more things as well. So Stinkgum Legion, that is a unit of 9 Iron Guts. They have full command as well as a Dragonhide banner. They're carrying great weapons as well as heavy armor. My characters have kind of changed a little bit. In the center, that is my general, that is Taijin Khan, the Right Fist of Hell. He is a Slaughter Master now. I decided to get rid of my Tyrant and save some points. He's got the Glittering Scales as well as the Greedy Fist as well as Fencer's Blades. He's also level 4 Lore of the Great Maw is what he has. His spells are Bullgorger, Toothcracker, Brain Gobbler, as well as Troll Guts. Right next to him on the right hand side, that is Burps O' Blood. That is my level 2 Firebelly with the Lore of Fire. He's got a Fireball spell as well as a Cascading Fire Cloak spell. And he's also carrying the Hellheart. And on the left hand side, that is my Battle Standard Bearer. That is Korgold the Giant Breaker. He's my Battle Standard Bearer. He's also got the what you call the Rune Maws, what he's carrying on him, which is going to be kind of helpful because I got to redirect a lot of the spells that the Dark Elves might throw their way. He's also got a great weapon as well. And then finally on the right hand side, that is the Red Reavers. That is a unit of 6 Ogre Bulls with full command. They have hand weapons as well as Iron Fists. And finally, my right-hand flank, these are the Beastclaw Raiders, as you know, 4 Mournfang Cavalry, so I managed to save some points and also bring in another Mournfang Cavalryman as a bonus of that. They're packing heavy armor as well as Iron Fists and hand weapons, and they also mounted on Mournfangs. They also have full command as well, and that pretty much makes up my deployment for this one. So with the deployment over with, we go directly to the top at turn number 1, and my friend and I roll for initiative to see who goes first. Alright, so that takes us directly to the top of turn number 1 for the Dark Elves. Lady Domina managed to get the initiative on this one, and this photo is taken after the movement phase. For the most part, she's really done some dramatic movement on the left as well as the right-hand flanks. First of all, she marches up the Doomfire Warlocks from the Shacklemore Seers over to the left-hand side of my Lead Belchers from the Powder Gangers. Located there is because they're out of the range of fire. I really can't see them, so I won't be able to shoot at them with my Lead Belchers, so that's pretty rough. At the same time, that also puts her along the entire long axis of my battle line. So that way she can cast Doombolt, she could also cast Soul Blight and cause all kinds of problems for my main battle line of troops because they're all kind of in a straight line right down the flank. At the same time, she also marches up Virzil the Broken, Rathric the Maw, and march flies up Beastlord Karth over to the right hand side behind that forest there, using the forest as cover at the same time getting ready to assault me. And the reason why is because if I do charge her with my Mournfang Cav, I do have to take dangerous terrain tests going through the forests, so it's actually kind of a smart move. And at the same time, she also positions herself in such a way that she can quickly charge into my troops and get me on the right hand flank as well. Now our infantry forces, the Dark Shards as well as the Dread Spears, the Morning Dawn and the Seastone Sorrows, they move up their normal mood allowance up forward so that way they can get closer range with the crossbows. At the same time, their flanks are protected by the houses on either side. And that pretty much makes up the movement phase for this one. Here's a close-up of the Shacklemore Seers outside the firing arc of my lead belchers from the powder gangers, and getting ready to cause all kinds of pain for my left-hand flank. And here's another close-up of the Morning Dawn as well as the Seastone Sorrows moving up and having their flanks protected by those buildings to the left and right of them. And here's also a close-up of Virza the Broken, Rathric the Maw, as well as Beast Lord Karth getting ready to attack me on the right-hand flank. So with the movement phase over with, we go directly to the magic phase. So during the magic phase, Lady Domina casts off Power of Darkness onto her unit of Dread Spears, giving them all +1 strength in close combat. I think she mainly did this because when she rolled for her power dice, she actually didn't have very many to begin with. I think she only had like 4 or 5 power dice, which she originally started with. So that's the reason why she cast that spell. I let it go off because I'm not engaging those Dread Spears anytime soon. I think it was a kind of a ploy to make me use my power dice. She did manage to get 1 power die out of the mix though, so not much really helped her for that one, and she pretty much dedicated the rest of her spells to her Doomfire Warlocks. So Lady Dama does try to cast Soul Blight off with her Doomfire Warlocks, the big version. She used the majority of her dice in order to do that. I managed to spell that one with no problem. However, though, she did decide to use Doombolt, the small normal version of 2d6 worth of hits, against my lead belchers, and I got pretty lucky on that one. I only lost 1 lead belcher out of the mix on that. I do pass my panic check so my lead belchers don't flee, so there's a silver lining on that part. So with the magic phase over with, we go directly to the shooting phase. And in the shooting phase, the 2 bolt throwers open up with multiple shots onto my Mornfang Cav, managed to put 3 wounds onto one of my Mornfang Cavalry Riders. And that's all they pretty much did for that one. So we skip the combat phase because nobody's currently engaged in close combat, and we go directly to the bottom of turn number 1 for the Ogre Kingdoms. So that takes us directly to the bottom of turn number 1 for the Ogre Kingdoms, and this photo is taken after the movement phase, and this is where I start committing my plan to try to cross the battlefield as quickly as I can. The first thing I do is I march forward with my Stankum's Legion as well as my Red Rovers right between the forest there. Hopefully the forest on the left and the right hand flanks of my columns will be able to protect them from being flanked from the left or the right, and my plan is to kind of charge them forward directly into that light infantry forces. Now, I am kind of taking a gamble on this one. The reason why is because by marching my guys forward like this, I am opening up my right hand flank to those monsters there on the right hand side. But what I'm hoping for, which kind of what I'm gambling on, is that I'm hoping that Lady Dama will go for my Mornfang, destroy those guys, then swoop in from behind and get me from behind. That's what I'm hoping she'll do, because that way it buys me a little more time for my infantry forces to destroy her core. At the same time, I do maneuver my Mornfang to the right hand side so that way they're facing square off against the monsters, so that way I can kind of invite a charge from them. At the same time, also wheel my powder gangers to the left hand side to face off against the Doomfire Warlocks. Hopefully I can break those guys by killing enough of them, or just outright kill them with my lead belcher guns. And that pretty much makes it the move phase on this one. So here's a close-up of the powder gangers getting ready to take aim with their lead belcher guns. Hopefully I can just destroy that unit of Doomfire Warlocks outright. However, they do have a 4 ward save, so I do have to worry about that. But hopefully if I can't destroy that unit, I can break them and make them panic, because they have no battle center bearers in range. But at the same time though, Dark Elves also have high leadership. It's a risk. There's nothing I can really do about it. I'm just going to try to mitigate the risk as much as I can. And I also forgot to mention too, if you notice, one of my lead belchers is carrying a wound, and that's because Lady Dama opened up with the Morning Dawn. I forgot to talk about that in the previous slide. So that's the reason why he's got a wound. The Morning Dawn managed to put 1 wound on one of my lead belchers. And here's a close-up of my Stankum's Legion as well as the Red Rovers getting ready to charge indirectly into the Morning Dawn, as well as the Seastone Sorrows. And that's where I'm pretty much kind of gambling on this one. And finally, here is a close-up of my Mornfang Cavalry getting ready to square off against the monsters over there on the right-hand side of the battlefield. So with the movement phase over with, we go directly to the magic phase. So during the magic phase, most of my spells were actually dispelled by Lady Domina. I did try to draw out some power dice by casting Fireball, so Lady Domina could waste some of her dispel dice on that. She took the bait and stopped that from being launched, because I was hoping to just atomize that unit of Morning Dawn by just destroying them with the Fireball. I actually used the level 2 version of the Fireball spell in order to do that, but she dispelled that spell pretty quickly. I then also tried to cast, what's it called? Toothcracker. No, not Toothcracker, I'm sorry. I tried to cast Troll Guts, the boosted version of Troll Guts. But unfortunately for me though, that didn't really really manage to go anywhere else from there either. However, I was able to successfully cast Toothcracker, the boosted version, so now everything within 12 inches on my Slaughtermaster at +1 toughness, which is going to be kind of helpful because I might get shot at, and I also might get flanked, so I have to worry about that as well and kind of buff those guys up for the climbing combat. So with the magic phase over with, we go directly to the shooting phase. And the shooting phase, my powder gangers managed to kill 2 members of the Shacklemore Seers, so I got pretty lucky on that one. However, Lady Domina did pass her panic check, so those Doomfire Warlocks are going nowhere, and now realizing I'm in a bad situation now because she can just outmaneuver my lead belchers all day long because she's light cav, and I won't be able to turn around in time in order to shoot her, so that's pretty rough as well. So that pretty much makes up turn number 1. There's no close combat because nobody charged, so that takes us directly to the top at turn number 2. Alright, so that takes us directly to the top at turn number 2 for the Dark Elves, and as you can see in this photo, so a dramatic move has taken place. First of all, Lady Domina does declare charge with Virzil the Broken as well as Rathrek the Maw. So what she decided to do is try to charge them directly into my Mournfang cav, so she's going to try to swoop around and hit me from the back and get me in a pincer attack, as you can see in this photo. However, Virzil the Broken did fail his charge, so he ran forward, I think, 5 inches, I think is what he ended up doing, so he cleared the forest there. Rathrek the Maw also failed his charge. I think he only moved up 2 inches, and then finally Beast Lord Rakarth of Karan Kar, he just flies across the battlefield and smashes directly into my Beast Claw Raiders. So because of that, now he will be engaging those guys in close combat. At the same time, she also marches the Doomfire Warlocks around my Powder Gangers directly behind my Stonecombs Legion as well as my Red Rovers. And that's kind of a bad spot for her to be at because she can cast Soul Blight and drop my toughness down or do bolt, whatever she wants to do as well. And at the same time, her infantry forces stay exactly where they need to be at because they have no reason to move. And that pretty much makes up her movement phase on this one. So here's a close-up of the Shacklemore Seers right behind my main battle lines for my 2 infantry forces. So that's going to be kind of scary because they can cause all kinds of havoc in my rear ranks. And here's a close-up of the Morning Dawn and the Seastone Stars getting ready to accept the charge from the Orcs and Ogres, rather, and we're also ready to stand firm and to cause chaos on their own. And finally, here's a close-up of Virzil the Broken as well as Rathrek the Maw failing their charges, as well as Beast Lord Rakarth making his charge with no problems whatsoever. So with the movement phase over with, we go directly to the magic phase. And during the magic phase, Lady Domina actually had a pretty dominating magic phase this time around. She actually received 11 power dice, which she ended up having. I only got 6. So because that, most of the magic she was able to cast was pretty bad for me in this case. First of all, the first thing that she does is that she casts Shroud of Despair off onto my units of onto my infantry forces, because everything within 12 inches of the caster suffers from Shroud of Despair. Now when you get the Shroud of Despair spell go off, which means that you can't use Inspiring Presence, so nobody units can use your General's Leadership except for the unit that he's in, and also you can't use your Stand Your Ground ability with the Battle Standard Bearer, so there's no rerolls for leadership tests, which could prove to be very devastating, especially if she causes a lot of casualties in my infantry forces. And to make matters worse, she also got the boosted version of Soul Blight off as well with her Doomfire Warlocks, which means now that my Powder Gangers, my Stonecombs Legion, as well as my Red Rovers have -1 to toughness. So it's not so bad for the Stonecombs Legion as well as for the Red Rovers because they have a +1 toughness from the Toothcracker, so it just pretty much nullifies that as all it does, but it's kind of bad for my Lead Belchers and because they -1 to toughness as well, so that part is kind of rough. And that pretty much makes the magic phase on this one. So with the magic phase over with, we go directly to the shooting phase. And in the shooting phase, the Morning Dawn tries to open up with their crossbows and manage to plink off one of my Red Rovers when they end up doing, causing 3 wounds, so that part was kind of sad. And then Lady Domina tries to open fire with single fire bolts directly into the Red Rovers as well, but unfortunately she missed with both of her shots, so nothing much really came from that, so I got pretty lucky all things considering. So it goes directly to the combat phase now, and the first fight takes place between Beast Lord Rakarth as well as my Beast Call-Out Raiders. Now, because he has the higher initiative, Lady Domina gets to go first. So between the attacks from the Manticore with its Blind Fury getting D3 plus 4 attacks, and at the same time getting the same D3 extra attacks from the Beast Lord ability being put onto the Manticore, and the fact that he's got the Chill Blade which automatically wounds, needless to say he managed to put 7 wounds onto my Mournfang calves, killing one of them outright and putting another 3 more floating wounds onto another one. So that part was pretty devastating to see the amount of damage taking place. Now I do counterattack, but unfortunately for me though, my attacks are just pitiful. I directed most of them directly at Beast Lord Rakarth, only having 2 Mournfang able to attack back. I just have a way low weapon skill while Beast Lord Rakarth has a much higher weapon skill, so because of that I did fail my attacks. I only managed to wound him once by the time it was all said and done. So with his charge and the 7 wounds that he caused, he actually has a combat result of 8 as opposed to my combat result of 2. He beats me by 6. That means I have a leadership of 1, which means I need to roll snake eyes in order to stand my ground. And needless to say, I failed that roll. And to make matters worse, I think I go back like 4 or 5 inches, I think is what I ended up doing when I tried to flee, and he charged forward 9 inches. So Lady Downa had Beast Lover Karth pursue and just destroy the entirety of my Mournfang cab, and all those juicy points went directly to her. So that part was pretty devastating. So yeah, things are not looking very good for my right hand flank. Now Beast Lover Karth can just turn around and then have the monsters swoop behind me and then catch me in a pincer attack. So things are not looking very good right now. Alright, so that takes directly to the top of bottom turn number 2 for the Ogre Kingdoms at this point. This photo is taken after the movement phase, and now I have to scramble quick. The reason why is because I have to commit at this point, and hopefully what I can do is break the infantry and destroy them, so that way I can turn my unit to 180, so that way they can deal with the monsters that are coming from behind, because the last thing I want to do is get caught in a pincer attack with monsters swarming on me, and then having to deal with infantry up in the front. So what I do is I end up charging is what I'm doing. I charge forward with my Stinkum's Legion going directly into the Morning Dawn because that's going to be easy. That's that's an easy target for them to go through. And then I charge in the Red Rovers in order to hold that unit of Spearmen into line to keep the Seastone Stars occupied. My hope here is that I can destroy the Morning Dawn or make them break and then run them down, and then I can either catch the Seastone Stars in a pincer attack and hopefully destroy them that way. That's pretty much the kind of goal I'm going with. That way, when I destroy both those infantry units, I can turn around, defend my flanks, my left and right flank from being attacked with those buildings, and then take the monsters head on, and I might stand a little bit better of a chance of surviving. And that's pretty much what I kind of go with when I charge them forward. At the same time, I also do a quick reform, not a quick reform, I wheel around, march wheel my lead belchers around because I don't have a musician. So I won't be able to shoot this next turn because they march, but at the same time though, that puts them in a better position, that way they can shoot in later turns. And that pretty much makes up my moving phase on this one. So here's a close-up of Stinkum's Legion charging directly into the Morning Dawn, as well as the Red Rovers charging directly into the Seastone Skyros, and I'm really excited to see how that combat goes. And before you ask, no, I did not get the bonuses of rolling 10 or higher for their charges, so they don't get D3 impact hits apiece. They only get the 1, so that part was kind of sad. But at the same time, though, I'm kind of excited to see exactly what the pain that these ogres can bring against these Dark Elves. And finally, here's a close-up of the Powder Gangers doing a march wheel around so that way they can start shooting the next turn as well. And that pretty much makes the move phase on this one. So with the move phase over with, we go directly to the magic phase. So in the magic phase, I actually got a pretty good magic phase on this one. The first spell I managed to cast was the flaming, cascading fire cloak is when I managed to cast off onto my unit of Iron Guts, which means at the end of the magic phase, any unit within base contact with them suffers strength 4 hits. In this case, I did manage to plink off 4 members of the Morning Dawn with that spell, so that part was kind of cool. And at the same time, I also managed to cast off the boosted version of Toothcracker again, so because of that, everything within 12 inches also has +1 of their toughness, which is also really cool to have that to back me up as well. And that pretty much makes up my magic phase on this one. So with magic phase over, we skip the shooting phase because I don't have any shooting at this point, and we go directly to the combat phase. So during the combat phase, ended up being kind of like a mixed bag type situation with that combat phase. On the plus side, my Stinkum's Legion had no problem just atomizing the Morning Dawn. I actually killed those guys to a man. So because of that, I do a quick combat reform real quick and turn them to the right so that way they can start engaging against the Seastone Sorrows. Now the combat, however, between the Red Rovers as well as the Dark Elves did not go very well in that one. By the time I got done, I think I managed to kill 6 Dark Shards that I ended up doing at the same time. At the same time, they managed to kill 2 of my Red Rovers as well as put a wound on one of my guys as well. So because of that, they actually ended up with a total of 7 wounds that they put against me. Now I have 6, so that means they actually win by 1 bonus point. But because they have a standard as well as a battle standard, and plus the fact that they got 2 ranks on top of that, it gives them a combat result of 5. Now I do charge, which kind of helps out a little bit, and I do have a standard of my own, which means they beat me by 3. Now here's where the problem comes in. I can't use my Inspiring Presence for my general, and I can't use my Hold My Ground ability either. So I can't use my general's Leadership 8, I have to use the Leadership 7 that these guys have, which means it drops down Leadership 4. And if I fail my Leadership test, I can't reroll with my Battle Standard Bearer. So needless to say, I failed my break test and I actually flee. I think I flee back something like 5 or 6 inches. However, Lady Downa decides to pursue, and she pursues forward 7 inches and runs down my Red Rovers and chops those guys down to the last man, killing all of my Ogre Bulls. By doing this, she also got out of the charge arc. Well, not really got out of the charge arc, but she kind of zipped past my Iron Guts, so that way I can't hit him on the flank. So I can, of course, wheel march, charge him to the rear, which will be kind of like my hope that I can do for the next turn, but the next turn's not mine. The next turn is Lady Domina's, and so she can do a combat reform real quick and then face off against me, and then I'll be bogged down, and that will not be good whatsoever. And that pretty much makes up the combat phase on this one. So with the combat phase over with, we go directly to the top at turn number 3 for the Dark Elves. Alright, so that takes us directly to the top of turn number 3 for the Dark Elves, and this photo is taken after the move phase. And the first thing that she does is that she charges forward with her Doomfire Warlocks. The Shacklemore Seers charge directly into the left-hand flank of Stankum's Legion. That kind of pins them there in that location so they can't move. So I have no illusions that, I'm not afraid of these Doomfire Warlocks. I know my Iron Guts will have no problem destroying that unit of Doomfire Warlocks. That's not the thing I'm worried about. What I'm worried about is that by charging me in the flank, one, she disrupts me, so I have no rank bonuses anymore, and secondly, it kind of pins me in location to allow her forces to maneuver around to get at a better location towards me, and that's where the problem comes in. At the same time, she also does a reform with the Sea Stone Skyros, that way they can square off against my Iron Guts when they finally get through the combat with the Doomfire Warlocks. At the same time, she also marches up Reavers of the Broken, as well as Wrathric the Maw to the right-hand side to start heading towards my Iron Guts. And then she also marches up Beastlord Karth of Kron Kar, right behind my Powder Gangers, and she's going to try to swoop and destroy those guys as well. So that pretty much makes it the move phase on this one. So here's a close-up of Stankum's Legion being currently engaged by the Shacklemore Seers. You can see the Sea Stone Skyros did a quick reform to face off against them. And here's a close-up of Beastlord Karth getting ready to charge directly into my Powder Gangers, so that's going to be kind of rough. And here's a close-up of Reavers of the Broken as well as Wrathric the Maw moving as quickly as they can in order to engage my forces as well. So with the move phase over with, we go directly to the magic phase. And at the top of the magic phase, I decided to use the Hellheart at this point because all the wizards are within close proximity, so I decided to make that happen. And now, if you're not familiar with what the Hellheart does, what it ends up doing is it targets every single enemy wizard within d6 times 5 inches. In this case, I rolled like a 3, so everything within 50 inches, which is all for casters for the most part. And what that does, that makes them force them to roll on the miscast table. So as you can see on here, the Shacklemore Seers, they rolled a 7, and Sister Sinner, the Oracle of Kosh, she rolled a 6, which means that the small blast template kind of goes off.
Klaatu! Miranda!
Which was pretty awesome to see because in the end it managed to destroy the 3 remaining members of the Doomfire Warlocks. Lady Donna failed her wordfully saves on those. So because of that, all 3 of those Shacklemore Series get atomized. At the same time, Sister Sinner, she does ward save her the explosion, so she takes no wounds. However, she does lose 4 more Dread Spears from the cataclysmic explosion that just took place. So that was awesome because now my Iron Guts are no longer pinned into position to a situation I want to be at. So that part was pretty awesome as well. However, during the shooting phase, the Storms of Koss do open up onto Stankum's Legion and manage to kill 2 more of my Ogres from my Iron Guts, so that part was kind of sad as well. I believe one did a solid shot and the other one did a multi-shot, as I think was what ended up happening. Regardless, both bolt throwers hit, killed 2 of my Iron Guts, and that's pretty much how it works. So, because there's no combat, we skip that, we go directly to the bottom of turn number 3 for the Ogre Kingdoms. Alright, so that takes us directly to the bottom of turn number 3 for the Ogre Kingdoms, and this photo is taken after the move phase. As you can see in this photo, I charged directly with Stankum's Legion directly into the Sea Stone Skyros, and the best part about it is I rolled an 11 for that charge. Now because of that, my Ogres caused D3 impact hits, which is going to be awesome as well. Plus I have 2 full ranks, which means they get 2 up to their strength bonuses as well for those impact hits, which is going to be great because I'm going to kill me some Dark Elves, which is pretty awesome as well. At the same time, I also wheel around my Powder Gangers. I march them around to wheel them to face against Beastlord Karth of Kron Kar. Now I won't be able to shoot at him during the shooting phase, which is kind of regrettable, but I do get to try to hopefully bog him down in close combat and just kind of buy my Stankum's Legion some time. And that's pretty much what I did for the move phase on this one. So here's a close-up of Stankum's Legion charging directly into the Sea Stone Skyros, and I'm really looking forward to this because if there's one thing that Ogres do well, that is chop up light infantry like it's nobody's business. And that's exactly what these Elves are. Nice, crunchy, really fragile light infantry. And here's a close-up of my Powder Gangers making a heroic last stand against Beastlord Karth because I know these guys are going to die when they get charged against. I mean, I have no illusions of that. And that pretty much makes it the move phase on this one. We skipped the magic phase because unfortunately it was a wash. I rolled Snake Eyes, so nothing much happened to that, and plus I have no shooting, so because of that we go directly into close combat. And close combat was absolutely atrocious for my opponent on this one. It was absolutely brutal to see exactly what they ended up happening. First of all, from the impact hits I generated, I managed to kill 10 Dark Elves just from the impact hits alone, which part was pretty awesome as well. Now, Lady Dama does issue a challenge with Lodi Daechir, the captain of the Golden Sun. He actually issues a challenge against my general, and my General Taishin Khan, of course, accepts. In the end, the Battle Center Bear was unable to cause any injuries onto my character. However, I was able to kill him right off the bat. Managed to put both wounds onto him, so he also dies as well. Now, for the rest of it, which is basically just normal attacks back and forth. Now, they do kill one of my Iron Guts, and they also managed to put 2 floating wounds onto a second one, so they actually managed to get 3 wounds off. However, I managed to kill 23 Dark Elves by the time it was all said and done, between my characters fighting, as well as the stomps that they get, as well as the rank, the second rank of guys also getting their attacks. So basically, I just destroyed these guys with no problem. Plus, I also used the Dragonhide banner as well, and I managed to kill a couple of guys with that one as well, so that was pretty deadly on this one. Needless to say, I win this combat by a landslide, and of course they had to take a break test, which they fail. So of course I pursue forward and I destroy that unit no problem, just chugging them down to the last man, netting myself some nice juicy points. And it's at this moment that I realized that by overrunning like I did to chase down the Dark Elves and to destroy them, what I did ineffectively, not in effect, was I actually put myself directly right in front of the monsters, Virza the Broken as well as Rathric the Maw, who can now charge me in the right hand flank. And that's something I did not look at when I overran, so because of that, I just kind of made it easier for my opponent to charge me now. And it's your movement phase coming up next. So with the combat phase over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 4 for the Dark Elves. Alright, so that takes directly to the top of turn number 4 for the Dark Elves, and this photo is taken after the move phase. And as you can see in this photo, everything that can charge does charge. It's actually pretty brutal. Lady Dominus sends in Virza the Broken as well as Rathric the Maw, charging directly into the right hand flank of my forces, so that's just kind of wonderful. At the same time, Beast Lord Karth of Karan Kar charged directly into the Powder Gangers up there at the top of the screen, so that part was pretty rough as well. So here's a close-up of Beast Lord Karth charged directly into the Powder Gangers, and I'm just kissing those guys goodbye because I know they don't stand a chance against Beast Lord Karth in close combat. And here's a close-up of Rathric the Maw as well as Virza the Broken charging directly into the right-hand flank of my Stankum's Legion. And I'm really worried to see how that combat goes because these guys are pretty deadly in close combat. So with that being said, we go directly in the magic phase, which we skip because my opponent has no magic. We also skip the shooting phase because everything's engaged in close combat, and because of that we go directly to the combat phase. So during the combat phase, it actually ended up being pretty brutal in terms of the combat phase going on. First of all, Beast Lord Karth had no problem destroying my Powder Gangers. He actually killed, I think, 2 of them. The last one had to flee. He overran like 10 inches, so because of that, he just flew across the battlefield right in front of my Stankum's Legion. At the same time, Stankum's Legion also lost all 3 of my Iron Guts. I lost 6 wounds in total from the 2 that had full health. I also lost another wound for the one that was carrying some floating wounds before. So because of that, they actually caused 7 wounds on me. Now, however, I do manage to do pretty well in the close combat. I actually put 4 wounds onto Virza the Broken as well as 3 wounds onto Rathric the Maw as well, netting me another 7 wounds as well. Now they do beat me by 2 because they beat me by 1 because it got me the flank, plus they charged, that beats me by 2. However, I have a standard as well as a battle standard bearer as well, so it ends up being a draw is what ended up happening. So I managed to outlast all that brutal attack between those monsters, so that part is pretty awesome as well. Now the bad news is that I still have 2 monsters I gotta deal with, and if I'm not careful, if I don't wipe out those monsters really quick in close combat, I'm gonna have to deal with Beast Lord Karth, and I'll be stuck in a pincer attack, and that will not be good. So I gotta do some, moving rule here, and actually do some killing the next turn. So with that being said, we go directly to turn number 4 for the Ogre Kingdoms, and this photo is taken after the move phase because I'm not moving anywhere because my guys are engaged in close combat, so they're still exactly where they're located at. Stankum's Legion still fighting against Virza the Broken as well as Rathric the Maw, and I gotta worry about Beast Lord Karth coming forward as well. And that pretty much makes the move phase on this one. So we go to the magic phase, but I only had 3 dice for the magic phase. My opponent had 2. She managed to dispel my dice no problems. So because we skipped that, we skipped shooting, and we go to the combat phase. And if you can believe it, I managed to kill both Virza the Broken and Rathric the Maw. It was absolutely crazy. Actually, what happened is I made way with both my general as well as my battle standard bearer. My general was able to put the last 2 wounds onto Virza the Broken, and my battle standard bearer was the one who finished off Rathric the Maw as well. So that part was absolutely outstanding. I managed to weather attacks as well. Unfortunately, Lady Domina just kind of flubbed her attacks for both of her monsters, so not much really came from it, and I was able to atomize those guys. So because those two monsters are dead, I do a quick combat reform to face off against Beastlord Karth, and I'm ready to fight that Manticore as well as that Dark Elf Lord on top. Alright, so that takes directly to top of turn number 5 for the Dark Elves. I do apologize, this photo is kind of blurry. This photo is taken after the move phase, as you can probably imagine. Lady Domina just charged in, and that's all she did. So because that Beastlord Karth as well as Kalibos are now engaged with Stankum's Legion. And we go straight to combat, because there's no shooting and there's no magic. So by the time the combat phase was over with, Lady Domina does declare a challenge with Beastlord Karth against my general. My general does accept. Now she does put 2 wounds onto my general, so now because that my Slaughtermaster is halfway dead. However, my Slaughtermaster was able to kill off Rakarth, putting the last 2 wounds on that guy before he ended up getting killed. So because of that, the Dark Elf Lord is dead, so I managed to kill the general, so that's kind of nice, and gave me an additional 100 points of victory points on that one. I did manage to weather the storm a little bit from the attacks on the Manticore. I did lose one of my Iron Guts as a result of that, and I think I also managed to put another wound onto my Battle Center Bear as well. I think the dice is kind of hidden by his body, so I do apologize for that part. However, the combined attacks from my Firebelly as well as my Battle Center Bear and the last 2 remaining Iron Guts was enough to put down the Manticore. So because that Kalibos does die, and that pretty much finishes off all the infantry forces left in the battlefield. The only thing that Lady Domina has left are 2 bolt throwers. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that takes us directly to the end of the game, with the Ogre Kingdoms pulling out the win on this one. It was a really difficult fight, and I almost lost this one, so that part was pretty crazy. I was amazed to see how many casualties I actually took in this army against Dark Elves. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go directly to the after action report, because this battle report is now officially over.
Sure, I could have stayed in the past. Could have even been king. But in my own way, I am king.
Hail to the king, baby.
Alright, now it's time for the after action report. This is the part of the battle report we talk about what went well, what went poorly, and what we can learn for the next time that we do battle. This is the after action report for the Golden Age Warhammer Fantasy Battle Report number 61, and this ended up being a major victory for yours truly. I ended up earning 2,118 victory points versus Lady Domina's 754 victory points. Lady Domina lost 2,118 points of victory points. She lost Beastlord Karth of Karan Kar and Kalibos, Sister Senator, the Oracle of Captain Lodi Daechir, the Golden Sun, the Sea Stone Sorrows, the Morning Dawn, Virazil the Broken, Rathric the Maw, as well as the Shacklemore Seers. My losses, I lost 754 points worth of stuff. I lost the Red Rovers, the Powder Gangers, as well as the Bleach Claw Raiders. And just right off the bat, just to tell you guys, I made way too many mistakes on this battle report. I opened myself up to so many flank charges, it was ridiculous. And basically I need to stop being so sloppy with my play because of that. And the only reason why I won this battle, in my opinion, is because of Stankum's Legion, and that's the only reason why I won this battle report. The build that I use for that unit is most commonly known as a Gutstar build, where basically you have a column of Iron Guts that you support with all of your characters. Gutstar being, you know, Iron Guts, and then Stars and Death Star, because it's an unstoppable column of death that just kind of destroys units wherever it goes. Now, Stankum's Legion has a couple of benefits. One, it's got a lot of durability because of the number of wounds they have, as well as their heavy armor and their great weapons, and their damage output is also really good as well when you're using with your characters. And that combination of durability and damage output is pretty much what won me this battle. And if it wasn't for those 2 categories on that unit, I could have lost this one very, very quickly. Now, I do feel bad for Lady Domina because her dice did abandon her during the second round of combat with Rathric the Maw as well as Virazil the Broken. Those monsters should have been able to cause a lot more wounds, but unfortunately, Lady Domina was just kind of flipping her dice on that part. Like I said, her dice just kind of abandoned it on that one. So I got really lucky that Stankum's Legion managed to survive that, because had that not been the case, this battle would end up being a victory for her as well. This was an extremely close match against an awesome opponent, and as always, I can't wait for the rematch against Lady Domina again. So as always, you guys, it's good for this one. Please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is always appreciated. And also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the greatest news about the hobby aspects of this channel. That's good for this one, you guys. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.